Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the TGIF Business Networking Hangout. I'm your host, Melanie MacDonald, Brand Identity and Outreach Strategy Consultant. We've got a great show coming up today. We have a fabulous guest, Nicole Levac, and she's going to be talking to us about personal transformations, and especially nature-inspired personal transformations. Her own story is a really interesting one to hear, and it is what spurred her on to decide to go out and help others get the transformations they need in their life to get rid of all those blockages and move forward and find success and happiness. As usual, I'm going to let you know right now that this is not just an interview show. It is a business networking hangout too, and all are welcome to participate. There is a join link in the event page comments. Just go ahead and click that link if you'd like to join us. Come on in and participate. Everybody who comes in gets an opportunity to introduce themselves and give your best elevator speech and participate asking questions of our fabulous special guest. So let's get started with those introductions. John, let's start with you, and then after John, we'll go to Annie, and then Pamela, and then our special guest, Nicole. John, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm John Jerkowitz, president and owner of Jerkowitz Consulting Services, a career development consulting and coaching group. My elevator's broke this morning. I'm just telling you, I'm really excited about being here because I am a big fan of Nicole's. And so I marked this on the calendar, and I circled it, and I wanted to make sure I could get there. I get her newsletter, and I just thoroughly enjoy anything she puts out, and now I'll stop gushing.
Thank you, John. We love the gushing. Annie, your turn. Please give yourself a nice introduction.
I'm Annie Chalakian. My company is called Silver Moon Bay. We design and manufacture hospital patient gowns and accessories such as bed jackets and meal protectors that are beautiful or just attractive for men and are unique designs, and we mostly sell them online, and they make great gifts.
At silvermoonbay.com, correct?
silvermoonbay.com.
Awesome. Pamela, you're up.
Well, Annie, I might have to talk to you because my dad's in the hospital, 82 years old, a farmer who's wearing one of those gowns now, and I'm sure he could use one that was more special than he's got.
Oh, yes, and ours stay closed in the back, too.
Oh, wow, he'd love that. Anyway, yeah, I'm Pamela Zeman, and I'm another groupie of Nicole. I'm a nature lover, too. I love what she's talking about. So when I heard she was on the program, I wanted to join in. And yeah, I'm in the process of rebranding myself into more. Well, you'll see it in the coming weeks. It's pretty exciting. So I'm jazzed about that. Happy to be here. Thanks, Melanie. Good way to get Friday started.
Yay! And I'm so looking forward to seeing what you have in store for us, Pamela, because your hangouts are among my favorites too, and your topics that you talk about. And yes, it is. I totally see how Pamela and Nicole hook up because they are both so awesome and both so inspired by nature, and both have nature play such a heavy part in what they bring to the rest of us, which is why I love them so much too. Oh. So, and audience, if you have any questions and you don't want to come in, you're camera shy, please feel free to leave your questions in the comments on the event page. We will be taking them throughout the Hangout. All right, on to our special guest, Nicole Levac. You've already heard me talk a little bit about her, so let's let Nicole give herself a better introduction. And then, Nicole, please tell us also a little bit about your background and how you got started and what made you kind of get to the place where you are today, where you were in the business that you were in.
Well, thank you. It's like, wow, I'm already very humbled by the amazing love that I'm already receiving. I basically started. It's been a journey. It's been a lifelong journey, and I do transformational work. The nature part of it came in very lately. It's always been very private to me, And so that I'm speaking of it from the angle of nature is finally allowing myself to reveal who I truly am. So the transformation comes from, to get back into my background of it. I come from a background of abuse, and there was, is that me?
No.
Okay. And I come from a background of abuse where there was some physical, but mostly emotional and verbal abuse, and so it left marks on me. And I've always tried. I always knew there was something more, and there was. It's always been on. I've always been a very curious child as a child, and I always tried to grow from that place. So it's like, okay, so I was always looking for something more, and it's like through that quest of my childhood, I learned to transform myself and pull myself out of deep dark places, and journeyed into fell into working for others, and then had my kids, and that transformed me on a whole other level, and allowed me to learn other parts of myself and discover things that I would never have known about me. And so it's been a journey. It's been a journey, and that's why now I call myself a transformation guide, because the form that is now looks nothing like the form that I started with. It's still from the core. It's still exactly what I started with, but it evolved into something that has grown and transformed and allowed the form to take a new form.
You blossomed.
Yes.
You grew and blossomed.
Yes.
That's kind of interesting. So, the first question I'm going to ask you is it's got to be tough, because you told us some real kind of personal stuff about your background and what you have been through. And how did you kind of find the strength to enable yourself to let that out publicly, and what kind of inspired you to do that? Was it, this is kind of how you reach out, I think, to the other people out there who might be going through the same thing, correct? And is that really your main motivation for doing that? And how tough was that to do?
The sharing part of it, I just think that there's it's a part of who I am. Now that I've I've cleared up a lot of it's a discovery process in allowing myself to be transparent and to show people that I've been down like deep dark roads, and I've pulled myself out of it. So I think for me, it's more of an empowering thing than, it's not for voyeurism or whatever, because I don't want to hide where I come from. It is part of my journey. So I think it's just to tell people, you know what, I've been there, and look, I'm here to speak of it, and
you can do it too.
Yeah. So I think that's more, and I learned that from nature. Funnily enough, it's because most of my journey, well, all my life, I've been around nature, and I've looked at it and observed it and listened to it and spent time with it and so on and so forth, and just it always managed to grow out of its uncomfortable space, out of like really like destruction, and it's grown through so much, and I thought, well, if it can do it, I can probably learn from that. So right. It's always been my nature has always been my best teacher and mentor. So it's
kind of like after a burn or a forest fire, so much new growth comes back.
Yes, and I witnessed that as a child. I witnessed where we used to go camping, and we used to go camping in the deep dark forest where we couldn't get to where we were camping other than by boat. And we saw the forest burn down, and it was like, wow, like that. I thought that was the end of it. And 10 years down the road, it was a brand new forest. Wow. And those are all those little things that I took into my process, and then I studied in energy, and I throughout all the other courses that I added to that kind of made it all come together as a transformation guide.
So when you say transformation, it's really, you're kind of talking about empowering oneself and taking all these lessons and things that happened in your life, and instead of like sitting there kind of dwelling on them and letting them hold you back, looking at them in a new light as if they are empowering you with the lessons you've learned to move forward and change things and make things better. Is that correct? Can you tell us a little bit more about what you mean exactly by transformation?
That is exactly what I mean, because I always say until we've learned how to, until we learn how to use our own strengths, and that's not quite the word that I want, but our own gifts, they're usually used against us because we learn how to use them to destroy ourselves rather than empower ourselves. So to go from being like a victim, and I don't like to use that word, but it is to go from being a victim to being empowered with what is the same. It's just the reverse side of things. And to, when you make a choice, a conscious choice, to empower yourself from looking at those deep dark secrets, looking at those deep dark places inside of ourselves, it's something that is very empowering, and it makes you take control of your life. And I don't like the word control because I don't think that, but it makes you master your own life, and you become the creator and the author of your life rather than just subir, rather than just live, like suffering what's happening around you. So that's.
So if someone is kind of stuck in that victim part of it, is this like we see with alcoholics or other addictions, where other people might try to intervene and help them, but sometimes it just is a little bit futile until that person themselves decides they don't want to be there anymore? Does that kind of apply to this situation as well?
It does, and although I don't work with the substance abuse, that's not my thing. I leave that to other people that have the great teachings for that. But it's definitely, especially people that have gone through emotional abuse. There's a part of ourselves that gets destroyed, and we bury things like really deep inside of ourselves, and we tend to think that it's normal to belittle ourselves and to be shameful and to be judgmental, and we're stuck in this way of thinking about ourselves that is very hurtful, and we leave parts of ourselves behind from that. So when you're going through a transformation, that's the golden pieces that you want to go and dig out. So behind the shame, behind the pain, behind the fears, there's always something that's held behind there, and that's what you want to go and discover. Like nature, when it's gone through that fire, it's going through pain, it's going through a lot of hurt, and a lot of, like, it's not fear when you're talking about nature, but there's a lot of stuff that's holding it back. And so when you allow yourself to dig in deeper, that's where the golden opportunities are, and that's where we can empower ourselves and come back even stronger and more solid and transformed from having gone through that journey. So.
Awesome. Camera. Okay. I just want to remind our audience out there watching, if anybody has any questions, please do feel free to post them to the comments, and we will get them to Nicole. I'd like to say hi to Roxanne Davenport. Hi, Roxanne, and Jim Sharp, who are watching. And I also want to give a shout out to a couple people that are going to be watching in Replay City. That's Dave Pipe, Carolyn Darden, Christopher Purcell, Clemencia R. Hi, everybody. Thank you.
Hi.
Great. You have quite a following, Nicole. It's wonderful to have you on here and talking about this. So,
It's lovely to have nature be heard and seen in a different way than it's been portrayed in our daily lives. So.
And so when you work with other people and help guide them through their transformations, what does that process entail? What does that mean? If I'm going to say, oh, I'm going to go to my transformation coach, what does it mean that I'm doing?
Well, the first step of the process is, and it's like, although I do work with nature, that's not all of what I do. A lot of it in the beginning has to take form through some healing and through some, like I call it the discovery phase, is discovering what's behind the barriers, what's behind those hurt parts of who we are, and before discovering what's behind it, you have to heal. There's a lot of healing that has to take place, and some of it sometimes is learned stuff from ourselves. Like, I learned to beat myself up. I learned to judge myself. I learned to be shameful. I learned to fear everything. Like, those were all things that I learned to be. But when you don't realize that it's not who you are and that you're stuck because you learn them and you've taken them on as if it's your own skin, as if it's your own personality, it's difficult to move past that. So the first level of digging in and transforming yourself is through the healing. The first journey is in healing. So going through different programs, and then there are different programs, different steps of your healing, of recognizing yourself, acknowledging that you're all that, and looking at it, because you can't heal unless you look at it and face those things. And it's a journey. And like I always tell people, nature shows us how to connect to ourselves on a level that is much slower than we're used to. And that's probably where I can help people, is to help them to slow down and be there for themselves during this process, because transformations, like massive transformations, don't happen overnight. And nature teaches us how to be still in those transformations, in those evolutions of ourselves, and to trust ourselves through that process. So that's where the first part is, the healing part of it, and digging in and really looking deep inside of ourselves and walking you through it and accompanying you through it. That's probably the part where I'm probably more involved. As like at first, it's a partnership that I work with somebody, and we're hand in hand, and I walk them through the healing part of it. And then there's the presence part of it. That's the next journey, is being present. After you've healed, there's a lot of learning those new parts of ourselves. Learning, it's I always tell people, it's like you've just bought a new house and you don't know how to decorate it yet. You've moved in, okay, fine. The first part would be the healing part would probably be trying to find it and trying to look for something that looks like you. And then the presence part is definitely the part where you want to feel into it, and you want to understand what looks like you, and how to be present through your own process. And that's a journey that I give you tools on, and help you to connect to yourselves through nature, if that's your thing. But I use nature to help guide me, to guide you. It's not a if people ask about it and they want to work with nature, that's what I love to share, those tools. But if people don't know how to connect with nature, that's where from my background of having gone through various different life changes. I've worked in various backgrounds, and so I come as a guide with quite a bit of experience from my background that I use in incorporating in helping people go through this journey of transformation. So I hope that answers a little bit of that question, because it's such a huge topic, and it's such a and the one thing that a lot of people ask, and like nature, and that's why I love nature as an example, is a transformation is something that requires stillness, but it also it impacts on many levels in our lives. So if I'm working, let's say, I'll use one example. One person is a businessman I used to work with. He was the owner of his company, and he was going through a transformation in his business as he's going through a divorce, and so everything is affected. Everything is affected, and that's what a transformation does, is it touches on all the areas in your life, and it's how do you navigate through that. And that's where I come in and to support you through that, and help you to navigate through the transformation so that it's not as destructive and more productive and empowering. So.
Awesome. So I'm going to actually summarize a little bit, and let's see if I got everything out of it that I think I heard. You're saying the first step in the transformation process is to get some healing and to unlearn what you learned in the past, because you were saying that you learned to beat yourself up, and you learned to be shameful, and you learned to be not secure with your own self, and that's some very difficult blockages to move past. So the first step is to just heal from what you learned in the past, and to unlearn those things and learn new things that, yes, you can heal, and yes, you can move forward, and yes, things can be better. And as part of that first step, you help people to slow down, because transformation does not happen overnight. It is something that takes time to do. The healing takes time, and nature teaches us how to be still during that transformation process, because things in nature happen over time, and give us the time that we need to make the journey. And that the second step is to be in the present, to connect to yourself now while you go through that journey. So you're making connections to yourself and rediscovering yourself in new ways, better than those old ways that you learned before. Is that correct?
That's perfect.
Okay.
Wow. I'm gonna take that. That's so much shorter.
Well, and let me give this as a tip to anybody else out there watching. If you are a guest on an HOA and you're showing off your stuff, it's a great idea to do a summary afterwards, because these HOAs are really great libraries of marketing materials. Afterwards, you can go and edit them in and get your 30-second sound bite. So it's good to go in and explain everything, but then after you explain everything, if you can do so, sum it up sort of bullet point style, because those make great sound clips, and those make great little promo video clips. So marketing hint number 1 from Melanie. Okay, I'm going to take this opportunity to ask anybody in our peanut gallery down there, do you have any questions or anything that you'd like to share with us at this time? Oh, John's ready.
I have a question.
Annie's ready. Go ahead, John.
When you did your introduction, Nicole, you said that most of the time people will use our gifts against us. What did you mean by that?
I'll use my example, because I don't want to speak of my clients, but I was extremely emotional. I used to be able to cry at the drop of a hat, And that so I was called a crybaby. I was called it's like all those nice nasty names that they're not part of my journey anymore, so I don't even remember them. But those were things that I held back of myself. I didn't think it was a good thing to be emotional until I realized I wasn't emotional. I was sensitive. I was an empath. Oh, it's a different thing, you know, but it's the same. It's the same. It's just the spectrum of this part of who I am that's being used against me, and it was hurtful rather than empowering. So does that?
Yeah, that does. I wasn't quite sure what you meant by that, so that's why I asked the question.
Great question.
Okay. Annie, what was your question?
My question was if Nicole could give an example of how she uses nature to enable somebody to progress. Just a brief example.
Well, it's just, first of all, people have often gone to nature to take from nature rather than to receive from nature. So the first lesson or the first thing that I teach people is allow yourself to receive from nature. When you go into nature, you don't go to take a walk, you go to receive from your walk. And it's a different vibe because you allow yourself to be a container rather than decide ahead of time what you're heading in there for. And then there's all the journey of what your walk makes you come face to face with yourself. There's right now I'm working on a book where I'm going to be bringing people on a journey in a walk in the forest where it's going to help them to understand what this journey in the forest, when I'm talking about nature, how they can connect to themselves. Because when you're going in nature, whether people don't realize nature is all around us, even if you're in the city. We tend to think of nature as I have to absolutely be around forests. I have to absolutely be around the 100% nature look and feel. But we have the elements around us at all times. Unless you're working in a cave somewhere in the deep, dark depths of the earth, you usually have the earth, which is underneath your feet. Doesn't matter if it's covered up and it's concrete, because I'm still Nicole Levac, even if I'm dressed up. And so the earth is always underneath us. The air, we're breathing it. It's always around us. The fire element is always, there's always light. So there's always the sunshine or whatever, and you can step outside. There's always some fire element somewhere, and the water element, well, you can turn on a tap. We're very lucky that way. We have water around us very easily, and those are the types of things that you can use in nature that are very easy in our day-to-day life that people forget about. And so I hope that answers your question, Annie.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
You know, and your mentioning the elements brings me to Pamela Zeman, because she's very much about the elements as well. Pamela, do you have any questions or comments you'd like to add?
Yeah, I sure do. There are two things. And first of all, I love what you're saying, Nicole, about receiving from nature. And if I go really, really deep into my psyche, I think that's why I had some money blocks, is because I realized that most people that made a lot of money were actually taking from nature. They were raping nature. And so it's like, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. So I think that message really has to go out in a much bigger way, that we can receive gently from nature rather than taking from nature and exploiting it to make the money. You look at the billionaires out there, most billionaire people in the past, it's changing, I'm hopeful, but most of them have made their money by really exploiting nature. So I don't think any of us really want to be a part of that. So how can we shift that?
Well,
And then,
yeah, that's your question? Sorry.
No, I had a second point, but go
Yeah,
ahead.
sure. No. I'll let you. I'll go back to that after.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, then the second point I was going to respond to was that when I really got motivated was when I realized, and you said this too, about how your strength, we can repress that. And I heard a quote somewhere along the line that said, if you don't bring forth that which is within you, it will kill you. So not only is it like a nice thing to do, but it will actually kill you. And my sensitivity as well, I was so sensitive as a kid, and I was always, and my creativity and all of that stuff, I repressed that so much. And to repress that to fit in with everybody around me was actually killing me. So we have to learn how to bring that out. And then it helps everybody else too. I mean, that's the benefit that comes along with it, but it's really survival of the soul, I like to think of it as.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's exactly. And I always tell to receive, like you were talking about, the receiving part of it. For me, when people start connecting with nature, to receive from nature, for what I feel and what I'm trying to teach people and guide them through it's a connection to the universal soul, because people we're in our way of thinking, and it's my interpretation of it. I always think that people need to understand they have to touch things, and nature to me is our physical connection to the universal soul. So when we're going in there to go and receive from a walk, we're connecting with our physical universal soul. So wow, we're bathing in it basically.
That's so cool.
That's always been my interpretation of it, and that's what I'm trying to guide people towards and show them the beauty of spending time in nature. And like I said, nature's all around us. We don't need to. It's not because you're in a big city that it's not around you, and it's not because it's not. It's in small portions. If I look at where my journey was, I started as a tiny little speck of who I am today, and I've blossomed into a forest, and that's what a transformation does. And that's what each one of us has the capacity of doing when we allow ourselves to connect with our source.
Pamela, I love what you said about when you were talking about the blockage against inviting money in, and that so many of us relate financial success and having money with those kinds of corporations that go out and rape the earth and do all these horrible things. And I think you're absolutely correct, and it ties to what Nicole says, because we see them very much in a sense as having been disconnected from nature, and disconnected because we're all one, right? We're all one with the mother, with Gaia. It's that connection that heals us and nurtures us and allows us to grow. But when we are taking from and becoming disconnected, then the empathy that you both have described so well tends to disappear, and it becomes a very kind of selfish taking of things and taking of money and resources. And I think that being connected, and I'm going to ask this to you, Nicole, if you agree, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go out hiking every day. You can still be connected. It's as much a state of mind. Yes, you want to go out into nature, but also I used to go hiking all the time. I don't do it that much anymore. I spend a lot of time in my office working on my computer. But if you go out into my living room, you're going to see more plants than furniture, and pretty much more plants than anything else in my house. We have tons. We've got trees inside and all kinds of stuff and greenery. So I still feel very connected, even when I'm inside and my view is the mountains across the street. So is there, if someone does live in a city, Nicole, and they don't find themselves able to, make an hour drive to go to the closest nature preserve, there are ways that they can still be connected. They can have a little container garden on their patio. They can bring in houseplants. They can do things like this.
Oh yeah, that's dead on. Like I mean, and like I tell people, like I have clients that come from around here. The biggest city is Montreal, and they're like right in the middle of Montreal. And that's what I tell them. It's like you don't have to go to the forest. Bring the forest inside of yourself. And just the way you're sitting, during the day we'll be sitting on the computer and arching ourselves over and pulling ourselves out of our own roots, our own capacity to ground ourselves. So just when you're sitting, when you're you just want to sit in a position that feels like you're grounded. So just be aware of your posture. That'll connect you to because we're all one. You're dead on, Melanie, when you said we're all united. We're all a part of each other. So by grounding yourself, you'll become one with nature, whether you're in the city, or in a high rise, anywhere.
You might even say we're live on rather than dead on.
Right.
Ooh.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's one of those golden nuggets we're going to pull out.
Oh, that's perfect.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to show on my screen, even though she has joined us, Roxanne Davenport. Hi, Roxanne. She gave us a question a little bit ago that I haven't forgotten. I just didn't get around to it yet. And she says, would beating yourself up be a form of depression? And Roxanne, since you are here with us now, let me go over to you. Say hello, introduce yourself, and let us know if you have any other comments and questions.
Okay. Hey, I'm Roxanne. I have a community called Seizure of the Day. I have epilepsy, and, well, I just, that was a question. I wasn't really going to talk about that now, but, yeah, beating yourself up. One of the medicines I take, I had to start, I call it a happy pill. Because one of the side effects of one of my medicines caused me to start getting upset, and I would either get mad real easy or cry if I didn't get along, or they said something I didn't like, but I'm fine now. But what I was going to ask you about, but when you said beating yourself up, did you even want to try anything like that, or did you just want to get over it by yourself or not see anybody about it?
I had I chose different ways to beat myself up. I journeyed into the drug world and in the alcohol world to try and numb it all out. And so when I started to process my way out of it, I studied in energy, and that was my way of dealing with it. But that being said, the depression piece of it, yeah, I went in a deep depression, and now it was never clinically diagnosed, but I have the pleasure of my sister who has gone through two very, very big 2-year depressions. So I've seen what that does, and there's something that's deeper. I'll help people through that beating up of themselves, but when they go into the depression piece of it, that's very clinical. That's very medical, and I always tell people, if you want to stop going to the medical world, stop seeing me. Because it's such a I help people transform from the inside out. I don't know the physical, medical part of things, and that's a whole different science, and that's a very useful science. So that's something I'm gonna tell you. Yes, but there's a part of beating ourselves up that can come from a depression, but the part of the depression needs to be dealt with clinically and medically, I think, because I think there's usually a brain imbalance. There's usually something to do with something that goes well beyond my own
Yeah, well,
capacity.
gosh, how many years? Like 5 years after I got diagnosed, they said it was depression and anxiety. I had, it was a sleep study because they thought I had sleep apnea.
Okay.
And because of my seizures, they said that sleep you definitely have to have, which, yeah, that's, side effects you have to have a lot of for this. But when the doctor that reads diagnoses, if you have apnea or not, he said, have you heard, you have traumatic syndrome disorder, post-traumatic stress, I was getting ready, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah.
And I have had surgery and it didn't work. So he said, that might be the problem instead of the depression. And I was like, wow, I'd much rather call it that than depression. So
I'm gonna break in here real quick. Sorry about that, Roxanne, but we are getting close to the 10 o'clock hour. So I'm going to kind of make this the last question from us to Nicole. Nicole, if somebody comes to you with the kind of stories that we're hearing from Roxanne, and they do have maybe a clinical depression or PTSD or something else, and they are getting it treated by the proper people who are there to treat that stuff, but they also want to come to you for the personal transformation, make it sort of a holistic, well-rounded approach. What's the kind of work that you would do with someone like that while they're going through everything that they're going through with the other professionals that they're seeing?
Well, that's the best journeys usually, because when you're transforming everything at the same time. So it's that I would say is a lot of the healing is going to take place, because as you're journeying into the medical part of it, the holding on to what is internal inside of us, and the post-traumatic syndrome is definitely that's usually when people come and see me, when they've gone through stuff, and we're out of sync with ourselves. We're completely out of sync with who we are, and that's where I help you to come back into yourself through connecting to yourself, because the post-traumatic syndrome is such a especially when we've gone through different journeys. There's definitely a well-rounded approach that is exactly what I do with my clients, and is to help you discover what's behind, because your post-traumatic syndrome is dislodged by something that happened, and you come out of your body. So when you're regrounding yourself and reconnecting yourself to who you are, it helps to calm the effects of the post-traumatic syndrome. And although, I don't want to just work with that type of clientele, but it's definitely a huge part of my clientele is the post-traumatic syndrome people that have suffered, and that they don't know how to ground themselves anymore because they've lost that connection. Like I was saying, the journeying into the forest is connecting to who we are.
So you kind of help them find their center and their balance while they're going through their healing.
Yes, processes. Exactly. And help them to ground themselves into because a lot of the time when you've gone through a post-traumatic syndrome, you've definitely lost yourself somewhere along the way, and you can feel it. Most people will tell me, "Oh my God, I feel like I'm out of my body," and it's like, yeah, you are. So that's where the healing portion of the journey is, and a lot of time it's a journey into connecting, and most of the time we've been outside of our body. Just do a quick exercise, everybody. If I ask you to name the different roles in your life that you hold, just make a list of them. And most people will come out with, I'm a father, I'm a mother, I'm a teacher, I'm a provider. I'm everything outside of who you are. And oh, as an afterthought, oh yeah, there's me. And we're always at the bottom of our own list. That makes no sense. We should be on the top of our own list. It should be, I'm me, and from me comes the rest of all those roles that I hold. And
if you don't take care of yourself, how can you take care of the others, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it's not from an egotistical point of view. It's from a completely generous point of view, because it's such a something that we think that it's by taking care of others that we're going to take care of ourselves. But all we're teaching others is how to take from us. We're not teaching them how to take care of. If I'm taking care of myself, then I'm showing people, you know what? If you want to be in my circle, you better treat me as well as I treat myself. And that's because we copy what we're shown. So if I'm showing you that I learn to trust and respect myself and treat myself well, you'll do the same to me. And you'll
to yourself.
Exactly. And you'll learn, you'll duplicate that in your life. And that's what this whole transformation thing, especially
that's the whole shift. And thinking. So Nicole, when somebody wants to contact you about this process, what happens? Is it a one-on-one thing? You take them out on walks, and if they're not in the same city as you, how does it happen? Is there like some sort of group program? Is there a process? Is it just one-on-one consulting? How does this happen?
Well, for now it's one-on-one. Because when you're digging into the healing part of it, it's very personal. So that part of it is one-on-one, and I can do this through Skype calls. I've had people in different countries and so Skype or private hangouts. As long as in the beginning I need to see the person to get a feel of their energy, and all of that is very easy online and whatever. And then through a discussion, through an exchange, through a coaching and mentoring, that I'll walk you through. And there's a lot of the time people go through these journeys by themselves, and they get stuck in their own heads. So I'm the objective person coming in and saying, okay, we'll clean this up. And I always give the analogy of cleaning up a house. You know, you can only clean one room at a time. So it's like, okay, so I'm going to help you. I take everything, I go into your house, I take everything off your shelves and whatever, I put it in the center of your room, I clean the whole area, and then I tell you, okay, so this is what you have to go through to decide what you want to keep and what you want to throw out. So it's about your journey. And it's definitely a very deep journey with yourself, because as a business owner, when we're solid in who we are, it's so much easier, and you gain so much clarity, and you gain so much more vitality, and then you show up in your life, and your clients connect with you better, you connect with your clients so much better, and you come at it from a whole different perspective, because you're standing in your own.
You know, that totally makes sense to me. I get it, because it's very similar to the same thing that I do when it comes to the business consulting stuff, because it's when I'm helping people figure out what their brand identity is, what they want it to become, what they want it to be, and what they want to accomplish and the steps to take to get there. It's all stuff that's in the back of their mind, that's in their head. They already know it, but it's kind of all just swirling around in there, and they can't figure out how to get it out sort of on paper into logical steps to take. And all I do is help them bring it out, put it on paper into logical steps to take. And I think John and Annie have both experienced my workshop for the brand identity and figuring that stuff out. And it's sounds very similar to what you do, but instead of it being like business kind of objectives. It's more like life and what do I want to have in my life, and good vibes and good feelings, and how do I want to feel as a person. So I kind of very much relate to what you're saying. It is already 10 minutes until 10 o'clock, so at this time I'm going to go back to my Peanut Gallery guests. Hello, Peanut Gallery guests. And if you have any promos coming up, any events that you would like to promote, anything that you would like to tell us about, any sales going on, this is your chance to do it. And any last thoughts that you have on what Nicole was talking about today in our discussion. So again, I'll start with John, then I'll go to Annie, and then we'll go to Roxanne. John.
Final thoughts. Interestingly enough, Nicole, the whole silence notion of what you're talking about, I've actually morphed into in the last week and a half. Just this kind of listen. What I would say to your audience, Melanie, is that if you get an opportunity to listen to Nicole, to work with her, to get her newsletter that I know you're revitalizing, okay? If you know me, you know I don't throw out plaudits readily. I put her in the same category as I put Tony Robbins and Wayne Dyer. Okay, I mean there is some really good stuff here. And to your audience, if you have an opportunity to spend time with her, do it. Okay, there.
Well, that's awesome, John. And I laughed because I do know you, and I know that you were telling the truth when you say that you don't say these things lightly, and you only say them about people you actually believe it for.
For sure.
Annie, your turn. Unmute yourself, please, and then tell us anything you have coming up. You got to hit your microphone button and unmute yourself. There you go.
Sorry, I did this wrong. Okay.
I hear you.
First, I would like to say that, like you, Melanie, living out here in the desert, I feel incredibly close to nature all the time because every window, well, one reason I bought my house is because every window I look at, I can see the mountains.
Yeah.
And it's just an incredible experience. And I was just reading the other day an article about how some study somewhere has discovered that people who take a walk in nature, in the natural surroundings, or they jog in nature or mountain bike or something like that, get much more benefit than people who just maybe do it inside on a treadmill or whatever. So it's definitely something about nature that we do have this connection to. As far as having any kind of featured sales going on right now, yes, I do. It just so happens that I have a Mother's Day sale going on, 10% off, and anybody can find it by going on my website, www.silvermoonbay.com, and then on the home page it says you click on something to receive coupons, and if you click on that and you fill it out, then I will get your email address and send you coupon notices. But for right now, if you just wanted to do it, the coupon is called, just when you go to checkout, put in Mother's Day 10 off.
10% off.
10% off, and you will get the discount. Yeah. And you don't have to sign up for the emails.
Thank you, Annie. Awesome. Great promo. And that's Mother's Day, 10% off. Use the % sign at silvermoonbay.com. Now through Mother's Day, right? Okay.
Yes, and there's a drop down when all you have to do is start typing in Mother's Day, and the rest of it will pop up anyway.
Okay. Awesome. Roxanne. Oops. There you go.
Hey, well, thank you. It was great. Like I wrote to the side, I should have found you the year after my surgery because I was not myself. If only I'd known you then, but there wasn't even Google Plus then. I'm glad I found the vitamins and minerals because it helped me while I was pregnant with my epilepsy. because all the medicine I was on could have caused some defects. So people should read up on that. It really helps. So this was great to find out and call you and find out more that they could, get more information from you with that. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Roxanne.
And
And what's the name of your community again?
Oh, it's Seizure the Day, but I put C's in quotes and then URE the day. And
Okay.
that's also my blog, and it gives information about what I've done to.
Is it seizuretheday.com, your blog?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. So find out more about Roxanne at seizuretheday.com.
And
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Nicole, how about you? Do you have any last words and thoughts, any promos that you want to talk about, anything coming up that we should know about?
Well, like John said, it's like, wow, I'm rebranding right now, so I'm putting my previous colors look nothing like me, and so I'm in the process of rebranding right now. So I'm on a bit of a hiatus on the newsletter and on the online world. And like I said, I'm a DIY person, so I do everything myself. Especially the rebranding, I'm getting help with that. So my website, I'm doing that. So it's a little bit twerky right now. So if you go on my website, everything's there, but it's kind of coming together slowly. Right now, I'm working on a book that I mentioned earlier, and I'm also open to having a few, I'd say probably two clients, two more private clients in my work schedule. So if you know anybody that's looking to work on a deeper level, there's definitely a process. That's what I'm allowing two more clients to fill into my agenda.
Awesome. Thank you. And that is NicoleLevac.com, NicoleLevac.com, in case you're just listening and not watching. That's where you can find out more about Nicole. I'm your host, Melanie MacDonald, MelanieMacDonald.com. I'm not going to spell it out because it's really long, but just go to Google Plus and you'll see it on my profile page and on this event page and everywhere else too. So the TGIF Business Networking Hangout happens on the first and third Fridays every month, 9 a.m. Pacific Time to 10 a.m. Pacific Time. Please do join us. The next episode of TGIF is going to be on the 15th. And I think I'm going to do another one of my every so often just open networking, come in and talk about what you want to talk about, because I always get comments from people that they like those ones, so I promised I would do those a little more often this year instead of just once a year at Christmas. So on May 15th, come in and join us. If you are a business person, a solopreneur, you want to do some networking, you have something that you want to talk about, you want to pick the brain of any of our fabulous participants who come in who just have so much knowledge in so many areas, come in and join us at 9 a.m. Pacific Time, Friday, May 15th. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, and happy Beltane, everybody. See you next time. Bye-bye.